I swear this isn't what it looks like. Nope. Where are you? Come on, man. There was a spider. Visual effects or VFX are a great way to increase the production value of your videos, and when you don't have to go through the trouble of building them yourself, it's even better. But before you dive into the world of visual effects, there are some things to keep in mind so the scenes where you use them don't come off looking, well, fake. So today I'm going to give you 5 tips for working with visual effects, and I'm going to show you some ways to accomplish the results you're looking for in Davinci Resolve. But before we get started, I need to give a huge shout out to ActionVFX. No, they're not sponsoring this video, but they did send me the ceiling fire effects that we'll be using in today's video. ActionVFX is one of the largest collections of stock visual effects and sound effects on the market, and right now they're doing a monster Black Friday sale. So if you want to get your hands on Hollywood level effects that were used in Spider-Man Far From Home, Jumanji: The Next Level, and Stranger Things, click the link in the description and check ActionVFX out today. And if you don't want to purchase the effects, you should head over there anyway, because they also have a bunch of free visual and sound effects that you can download and play around with. Okay, let's get started. Let's start off with an easy one: getting your visual effects into the scene. Now, this seems like an easy thing to do, but there are a couple of things to keep in mind. For instance, you're gonna need to think about how you're going to be working with these effects. If you're just slapping them on there and you don't need to do any masking, then you can just put them on your timeline over the video clips where they're needed. However, if you know you're going to need to do masking and tracking in order to make the effect look more realistic, then it might be a good idea to put them into a fusion composition with the video clip. Either way, getting the effects into Davinci Resolve is easy because these stock effects are just normal video clips, so you import them just like you would footage from a camera. If you don't know how to do that, well, let's face it, you're watching the wrong video. For the scene you saw at the beginning of this video, I knew I was going to need to mask out the chandelier so that the fire didn't look like it was just slapped on top of everything. So I created a fusion composition out of the clip I was working with and added the fire elements to the fusion composition. Now, as you can see, these fire elements have black backgrounds, which just won't work. To get rid of those black backgrounds, we need to change the blending mode of the fire elements. If you put your effects in the timeline, just click on the element and then over the inspector, change your composite mode to screen. If you're using a fusion composition, then you'll do the same thing, but on the merge node for each effect element. Okay, now that we've got our elements physically in the video and we've gotten rid of those pesky black backgrounds, it's time to actually place the effect elements in the scene in a way that makes it look more realistic. Now, for my scene, I was using the Ceiling Fire VFX pack from ActionVFX, and the fire is, as you guessed it, on the ceiling, so I didn't have to do much other than resizing each element to fit where I wanted it to fit. But you might find yourself using tools like corner pin, zoom, and changing the pitch or aspect in order to make sure that your effects look as natural as possible. This is also where you would do any tracking if there was any camera movement in the scene, or if your effect needed to move with something in the scene. And it's where you would do any masking like I had to do with this chandelier, so it actually looked like the fire was on the ceiling and not just slapped on top all willy-nilly. Yes, I said willy-nilly, so moving on. Now, if you're lucky, the base footage you're working with will have been lit with the effects you're using in mind. Film Riot actually talks about the importance of lighting in their video about visual effects. I'll link to that below because it's full of great info if you're both shooting and editing the video you're working on. Unfortunately, sometimes you get footage that wasn't lit with the effect in mind, either because nobody thought about it or, like me, you just didn't have the lighting available to you. In situations like these, it's up to the editor to create fake lighting in post in order to make the video seem more realistic. One of the best tools you can use to create fake lighting in Davinci Resolve is the gradient power window. The gradient power window can give the illusion of light being brighter at the source and then getting softer the further away you get. Using the gradient power window is easy. Just head over to the color page, go into your power windows, and click on the gradient power window. From there, you can add your color and exposure adjustments, move, rotate, and soften your window until you get the effect you're looking for. In my scene, I brought the gradient window up to the top of the frame and softened it until the arrow was at my chin. Then I just increased the color temperature so it seemed like the fire was giving off an orange glow. It's also important to note that I did the initial color grading on the footage before I started working with the effect. I did this so it would already be graded when I placed it in the fusion composition. Next up, let's talk about audio. If I were to release this clip without any sound design, it would sound a little off. Well, luckily I've got the fire sound effects pack from ActionVFX to help me out with that, and even if I didn't, there are tons of places to find high quality sound effects that you can use in your videos, like Epidemic Sound, Artlist, Audio.com. All of those will be linked in the description. As far as sound effects are concerned, really it's just a matter of finding the sound effects that work and give a realistic feel to your scene. Now, one thing that can make that easier, especially if you have a collection of effects from a single source, is to add your sound effect collections to the Fairlight sound library. That way, not only are your sound effects right there while you're editing your audio, but they'll also be available for use in every single project that you create. I'm actually coming out with a video all about the Fairlight sound library on Friday. Make sure you're subscribed and have that notification bell on so you don't miss it. Okay, so now that we've got our visual effects in place and it's looking and sounding as natural as we can make it, it's time to add some finishing touches. This is where we make everything look and sound as seamless as possible. To do this, we need to look at a few things. First, are there any additional effects or sounds that will help complete the package? Second, how do the clips that have visual effects on them relate to the other clips in the scene? And third, what can we do to the other clips in the scene to make our visual effects more realistic? In my scene, the answers were relatively simple. First, where there's fire, there's usually going to be smoke, right? Well, I don't have any stock smoke effects, and I'm not really skilled enough in Fusion yet to create my own smoke effect. Luckily, one of the new features in Davinci Resolve 17 is the addition of pre-built effect templates in the Fusion page, and one of those happens to be a steam effect, which looks an awful lot like smoke. So I created a new Fusion composition, added the steam effect, and then played around with the zoom, position, and opacity until I had a nice smoky haze in the scene. I also thought about how fire makes light flicker, so I went back to the color page, went into my node that contained my gradient power window, and added a flicker effect from the Open Effects menu and played around with the settings until I thought it was a good simulation of the flicker that occurs around a fire. Next, it was time to look at how this clip relates to other clips in the scene. This was pretty easy. Clips 1 and 3 were filmed in my hallway, and clips 2 and 4 were filmed in my office. Both locations were in view of each other, and clip 4 is just a close-up of clip 2. This brings us to what we can do to make this a completely seamless experience for our audience. First, let's start with audio. Since the whole scene is essentially taking place in the same space, I had the fire effect sound running throughout all 4 clips, and I just keyframed the volume so that it was lower during the hallway shots and louder during the office shots. This also made the cuts between the shots a little more smooth. Since the close-up of me in the office took place in the same exact spot as the wide shot, I not only made sure that the color grade was the same, but I also added that same gradient power window, the same flicker effect, and increased the color temperature. The only thing I did differently was I lifted the power window up so that it looked like the fire was the right distance away. For the hallway shots, I increased the overall temperature and added a less extreme flicker effect to show that everything was happening in the same space, and when I was all said and done, I had a seamless 4-shot sequence with a realistic fire effect. Really, when it comes to visual effects, it's all about making it seem as natural and as seamless as possible. The effects found at ActionVFX are a great starting point, but to really make them work, you'll have to combine them with the incredible tools available in Davinci Resolve 17, like those pre-made Fusion templates. To learn more about what Davinci Resolve 17 has to offer, click here, and for more tools, tips, and tricks that'll make you a better video editor, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.